Today, I'm going to be breaking down the day in the life of a digital marketing manager. And if you are one, or you're an entrepreneur who is basically wearing that hat and 100 of other hats, then you're going to like this video because it's going to help you not feel overwhelmed. And you're definitely not going to feel alone anymore in that feeling if you are in that scenario. So let's dive into it on how you can be a far more productive digital marketing manager. Or if you're looking at it as a career choice, or you just want to know how to do it better for your own business, this is the video for you. Let's dive in. So this is a very interesting video to me. Obviously it's relevant to me considering my job as the director of marketing at Empire Flippers, but this role is one of the most rewarding, dynamic, amazing, and honestly incredibly overwhelming and confusing job you could ask for.
Sounds good, yeah.
If you are doing this for a living, whether in your own business or you have a marketing manager or you are a marketing manager, you should breathe and live marketing because that's what it's going to take for you to be able to really do this position well. And I'll go more into why that is down the road, why it's so overwhelming. I'll demystify that for you a little bit. But first, let's talk about what I do in that daily life of a digital marketing manager. So when I first wake up, the very first thing I do is I look at Slack, which is what we use for communication in our company across all departments. I look at my project management software, and then I also look at my email. Now, when I do this, I'm not really going deep into it. Instead, what I'm looking for are glaring fires. And if there are no fires that I need my attention right away, I basically ignore all of these because I want to conserve my energy for high value creative tasks that really require my energy to be at my best. Like right now in this video, I'm shooting this at the start of my day, not at the end of my day when I have the most amount of energy. I save most of the admin work that can be done with kind of a low energy mindset for later on in the day. The exception again is if there are major fires I need to respond to and put out, right? The other thing that is an exception to this rule is if I see something that'll take me all of 5 minutes to do, I will go ahead and just do that right away rather than waiting till the end of the day to do that. And that's part of a mindset thing that I will share with you throughout this video. And that mindset thing, by the way, so you have a little bit of a preview of what's coming, I call it cooking dinner. So if you like food, if you like marketing, this video is about to get even better because I'm going to be using that reference, that analogy to show you a bit of how good project management and marketing can look like and why I compare it to making dinner. Once this is done, once this check is done, the next thing I do is I look at our analytics, both Google Analytics, HubSpot Analytics. I also look at our custom platform that we have built. If you are a registered user of the Empire Flippers Marketplace, you know what I mean. We have a custom platform for buying and selling online businesses that also houses a lot of different KPIs. And what I'm looking for is to make sure everything is on track. Do I notice something that is weird or off, or do I notice something that's weird in a great way? You know, for instance, I saw that our Quora traffic was way up recently from a campaign we did months and months ago that looked like initially it was going to fail. And in true content marketing fashion, the tail end has now made it a very profitable endeavor for us. So I always look for that kind of stuff. One, things I can respond to, things that I can report back to the team as a win. For example, one of my content specialists recently, he published a guest post on another blog and initially feeling a little bit down because it didn't produce anything in analytics. This last, I think it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago when I was checking the analytics, I noticed he had gotten 2 seller submissions to entrepreneurs from that blog post specifically. And we know it came directly from that blog post because they basically beelined it from the blog post to submitting their business with us. Usually it's not a clear-cut path like that, that I was able to reward him with a, attaboy, good job, man. That was excellent work you did on that piece of content that moved the needle. Because if there's 2 people that are showing in my analytics that they submitted their business, there's probably a lot more that my analytics didn't pick up because we have a very complex sales cycle, right? So that's what I'm looking for in this. I'm looking for any of those kind of early morning wins that make me feel good, can make my team feel good and feel motivated about what's going on. Also, I want to make sure everything is on track. If the leads are down, the pipeline is down, or it's looking like it's kind of sagging, I might call up my marketing ops supervisor or my content manager. What can we do? What can we pivot to help change this to get it back on track, right? I won't do that part right in this second of the day, but I will take take notes that I might need to have that conversation if things are not on track. Now, once that is all out of the way, the next thing I do, which is a very old school productivity hack, is actually completing something that I started last night. Because at the end of my day, I will write out 5 tasks that are very important for me to finish that are high value. And out of those 5 tasks, I'll do this the night before, I will circle 3 of them as my high priority. Now, I just use any old piece of paper, but if you're more digital than me, you can use your project management software, and your team can even see what the 5 things are, which might motivate them as well to do their own 5 things, right? But what I'm looking to do is create a brief outline of what I want to accomplish tomorrow. Now, when that tomorrow comes, and tomorrow is today, I look at those 5 things and I start on the first top 3. And out of those top 3, I always start with what is the hardest thing first. That's very important, again, to the mindset idea here, because typically the thing that you don't want to do often has the most value, but you don't want to do it because it feels hard and overwhelming. But here's the dirty secret of our own mental existence, I guess, which is things that we think are hard are not that hard once we start doing them. Yes, we might make a mistake, mess up, and even make ourselves look kind of foolish in the beginning when we're trying something new, and that's okay, right? People do that. That's how you get better. But the real crazy thing is usually those hard things that I get out of the way first are a lot easier than I thought they were. My mind made them out to be these like atrocious mountains to climb, when really it was just like a hill or maybe a little rough path through the garden, right? So once those are out of the way, I feel even more motivated. Oh my gosh, I just did something really, really difficult that I know is going to bring high value to the company, whether it's a project or managing something, whatever it is. So I get those out of the way, and I don't do all 5 of them. I only do those first 3, and I save the final two for later in the day. So I've just used up a lot of my creative energy on this project, and now it's time to move into the next part of the day. This part of the day is what I like to call keeping the trains running on time, which actually plays into the cooking dinner analogy that I will be dropping on you a little bit, so watch out for it. So keeping the trains running on time, what I'm looking for here is I'm transitioning from creativity to a more admin managerial role, where I'm looking at all the different projects that my team has going on, what they are doing. Hopefully it's clear in the project management system. If it's not clear to you, make sure it's clear, whether you're using Google Sheets, ClickUp, Asana, Monday, whatever, make sure it's clear to you where everything is. And you want to make sure everything is running on time as smoothly as possible, which in marketing, there's always going to be problems. So whenever you say, all right, this will be done in 2 weeks, add like 5 days, because there's probably going to be some kind of mess up with the project itself, or a different mess up will happen in an unrelated project that's going to take away some mind share from getting that project on time. So it's always good to have some of that expectation built in. But what you're doing here is trying to plunge down into the project itself to make sure it's getting where it needs to go, that all the things are running smooth, your editorial is running smoothly, different project on maybe life cycle value or customer acquisition costs, paid advertising traffic, all this stuff is going correctly throughout your whole system, that the projects are being whittled away and you're approaching the victory lap on those on time, hopefully. So that's what you do on this stage. You keep making sure everything is running, that anyone that needs your help can come to you right now. Now is the time for them to discuss their projects with you, and you try to help them do the best that both of you can to get the job done on time. Okay, so now we're at kind of like the midday of the marketing shift in this sense. And I like to take this time to recharge a little bit. So a big part of being a marketing leader, which if you're a manager, you are a marketing leader, at least within your own company, is setting aside time to have what I like to call the madman hour, where you pretend you're Donald Draper for a bit and you start daydreaming, you start thinking up new strategies, you have a piece of paper, you're just going hog wild with a creative map, maybe this insane mind map that makes sense to absolutely no one but you, and you're just having fun doing and planning and outlining new strategies. Sometimes this involves consuming a lot of content. In fact, I read tons of blogs, I listen to tons of podcasts, I watch webinars, I watch YouTube videos. This Whole reason why I have YouTube Premium, so I don't have to watch ads. So whenever I need to learn about something that's super, super niche, I'm like 85% sure that YouTube might have something that covers that topic a little bit for me, that I can go and figure out something for some strategy I dreamt up. And this is a big part of being a marketing leader, in that you're not just responsible to make the trains run on time, so to speak, you're also responsible of where to lay down the tracks in the first place, right? So this is part of the overwhelming thing that I hinted at earlier, in that it can feel a bit messy leading your team because you don't exactly know if you're leading them on the correct path, but you gotta do it confidently so that they do their best job too. While in reality, you're kind of always just a few tracks ahead of them on like, all right, I see there's a mountain coming up, call back to them like, hey, there's a mountain. And then like, hey, all right, we're going downhill now, all that kind of stuff, right? So you're constantly having to lead. Therefore, you need to constantly consume content that levels up your marketing skill and your knowledge. Constantly seek new peers, read new books. Maybe you need to take a course every now and then. I usually take between 1 to 3 courses a year, sometimes more, but very rarely less. I usually take them to keep myself sharp and keep my own ideas sharp on where the marketing industry is going, because internet marketing is an incredibly dynamic industry. There are things that are being done today that didn't even exist 3-4 years ago, right? Like TikTok, for example. I know tons of e-commerce entrepreneurs just absolutely crushing it on TikTok ads. No one saw that coming 3-4 years ago. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing you could be an expert at because it wasn't even in existence, right? So this is what I mean. You need to always be staying abreast on the changes of what's happening in the marketplace while also leading the team. And so it is very important you set aside an hour of your day. I do this every day, to just think. Don't be distracted by anything else. Just think, what does the road look like ahead? How do I lay down that next piece of track? What is a specific marketing problem I do not know a lot on? And how can I research a way to get out of that, to get to a solution so that I can share it with my team? And now they have the solution to keep going forward. This is all part of the juggling between leading your team and managing the team while also leveling yourself up as a marketer. Now, over time, you're going to get to this point where you start reading so many business books where you're like, God, this could have been a 500-word blog post. Time to buy Blinkist. You know what I mean? You're going to get to that point where everything just kind of sounds pretty much the same. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you stop. That just means you keep going, because now you've assimilated as much of the zeitgeist that's in marketing as possible. So you know almost everything at a general level, which gives you a lot of leeway as a manager to do different things that you just couldn't do as a specialist. A manager should strive to be a marketing generalist more so than a specialist for this very reason, because it allows you to delegate much, much more effectively in a wide variety of marketing services and marketing channels and distribution forms, right? So the cool thing about this is when you get to this level where everything is kind of sounding the same during your Don Draper hour, you get to really benefit from this idea of nuance. And nuance allows you to go to new creative frontiers that you never even thought about. So an example of nuance here is, after my first few years at Empire Flippers, I always thought about my audience, buyers and sellers, especially in the beginning of my career, but business buyers and business sellers, as two distinct groups of people. Something I noticed as I learned more of the nuance of the industry and of my target audience is they're almost the same person. They go through phases. Like often they'll start off as a seller, then they become a buyer, they build this business bigger, then that buyer becomes a seller again, and then that seller takes that money and becomes a buyer again. Now, we had no content really about this. We had things called like Flipper Fred and how to flip a business. That didn't really encapsulate the entire concept of what they were doing. So the nuance there, I was able to create a new strategy that I could apply to my marketing messages and my marketing pitches. And that's called the Asset Flywheel. I'll put a link to the video down below where you can go check out that strategy. It's where it combines buying and selling businesses together to create a financial freedom plan that can be done within 5 years as an entrepreneur, much, much faster than index funds or real estate. And I know it's real because I've seen my customers do it, right? So I was able to create the Asset Flywheel. Now that term became like, It's not like super popular, or anything like that, but people use that term when they're talking about buying and selling businesses together. They call it the asset flywheel. And that's led to me speaking at several places around the world now. Would have been a lot more, but 2020 happened, and we know what happened during 2020. Anyhow, so the asset flywheel came out of that nuance, and that helped supercharge a lot of our other parts of marketing. And you can see this in effect with other marketers. So for example, Brian Dean over at Backlinko, he came up with the idea of the skyscraper technique. Now, if you're an SEO, the skyscraper technique is probably pretty old hat for you. You're very familiar with the term. You might not even know Brian Dean created that term because everyone uses it in the industry. That was a killer name to a cool marketing strategy. And the marketing strategy itself wasn't even that new. It went by other names. Like, people never really had a catchy name for it before. They laid out the process, like, here's a way to get backlinks, right? There was no naming convention to it. Very similar to us with buying and selling businesses, where we just call that buyer persona, flipper Fred, and call it a day until we did the asset flywheel. Now we have a streamlined aerodynamic name that gets people more interested in what we're talking about. So that is the power of nuance. As you learn more and more, you're going to be able to move and pivot in all these different creative ways in your marketing with a bunch of different angles you may never had thought about previously. So that's your Don Draper hour, your madman hour. You don't have to have whiskey in your hand or smoke a bajillion cigarettes to do this. Just take a piece of paper and start going crazy, writing down ideas, even if they're bad ideas, because bad ideas can often spurn good ideas, and sometimes bad ideas are actually good ideas, but you just thought they were bad, right? So this is all about creative freedom. And this is very, very important. And after the Don Draper hour is done, and remember, the Don Draper hour is really for you to create basically commercially viable poetry. It's time to move into something much less poetic, which is the admin work. So the admin work is where I end most of my days, because everything I just said previously takes a while. And the admin work is where I'm trying to get to inbox 0 in my email. That's always a goal of mine. If you can't get to inbox 0 in a single day, make sure there's at least one day a week where you are inbox 0. This is fantastic for your mindset, and I will be going into more why that's important later on in this video. A healthy mindset is extremely important because this role, like I mentioned, is extremely overwhelming with what is possible and what you're tasked with doing, to be honest. So check all of my email, get to inbox 0. I check my Facebook, my LinkedIn messages, respond to anything I need to do there. I go on Reddit, see if there's anything on there. I look at my brand mentions. So I use two tools, mention.com and Peak Metrics, that I cross-reference basically to see the news in my industry for different things that might need my attention or my reply, or maybe I need to flag something to a different department about something. And then what I do is move on to the next things on my 5 daily tasks, right? Because remember, I still have 2, because I only did 3. And now I'm trying to wrap up my day doing these 2 tasks. And sometimes I complete them, sometimes I don't. More often I don't, because the day's already so busy. Maybe if I minimize my Don Draper hour, I could accomplish it. But I think that is like one of the most important things you can do as a marketing manager. So I always set aside time for just blank creativity. But I try to finish that up. Most likely I won't finish those two remaining tasks. So I add them to my list of my next 5 daily tasks going into the next day, along with 3 other tasks that I want to accomplish. And when I wake up, they're already a bit half started, so I don't have to fear the blank page syndrome because there's already stuff there. And that allows me to get into them and finish them a lot quicker, where I'm opening up loops for myself to finish. In marketing, you always hear about opening loops. In fact, I've opened up 2 loops in this video. Comment down below if you notice what open loops I actually did. But that's what I do with the remainder of my day. Now, you probably noticed a theme here. What I'm doing is I'm oscillating between a creative mode and a more managerial operational mode. And I do that on purpose because these are 2 different mindsets that use 2 very different fuel sources. One is all about the Don Draper guy. The other one is all about making sure the trains are running on time guy, right? Or woman, right? So what you're trying to do here is give yourself enough dynamic entertainment, so to speak, for your own mind, where you're never really getting bored. Because creative people especially are like we're like herding cats, right? To get our attention and get us to focus on something. If we focus on something, it's amazing what we can do, right? Actually getting the attention is the hard part. We're marketers. We try to get other people's attention. I'm trying to get your attention right now, and my retention report's still probably low, but it's getting better thanks to this editor, hopefully. Please edit this really nicely, editor. So with the attention thing is so hard for us to maintain that we want to trick ourselves by oscillating between these two things. Where, all right, I'm in a creative mode. I just did a ton of high value creativity stuff. All right, that fuel is kind of low. Let's do a bunch of operational stuff. That fuel starts getting low, but while the operational fuel is getting low, your creativity is rising back up, hungry for more, because creativity is like this beast that never stops. Once you train it, it's just always hungry. So once you give its fill, it doesn't take very long before it's starving again to do more action. So that's why you do this oscillation between the two to allow you to have this really fun and dynamic day, to be honest. Now, I'll end this section on the daily life of a digital marketing manager with one last thing that doesn't really fit into anything else I said, but it's a very important productivity hack in my opinion. Some people don't like it, and I get why they might say that, but I personally love it. And that is the concept of batching. So if you know you have several different or similar items to do to accomplish, batch them together. So when you're in the creative mode, you're in the creative mode just for that. So you can really prepare your mind rather than going to a bunch of different projects when you're in the creative mode or in the operational mode. You want to batch everything together. So an example of this is this video. So when I wrote the video script for this about, 4 or 5 days ago, I actually wrote 5 video scripts that day. That was part of my task I set myself, was write 5 video scripts. That was one of my creativity chunks. Now today, this is actually the second video I shot, and hopefully it's okay. And you're wondering why, yes, this is the reason why some of my videos still have ring lights in my glasses, because I shot them on the same day as that first video where I made fun of myself for having ring lights in my glasses. Like, hey, productivity hack, just make fun of yourself when you mess up on video. But now I think I might have gotten it better. Let me know in the comments if you think I can still improve. Probably can. Anyways, so now I'm batching these videos, and from an operational standpoint, I will sometimes batch content reviews. Like when I was doing a lot of content reviews myself before I hired my content manager, or promoted her rather, I was reading a lot of that content, and I would batch them. Like Tuesday is my day to read all the content as much as I can. Anything carried over, I'll batch to Wednesday till it's all done, right? Batching is very, very useful in this way. So you can really laser target on one specific thing. And the best thing about batching is that it creates this like narrow focus that allows you not to be overwhelmed. The path is very clear, and that is super important as a digital marketing manager, because there are very few paths in marketing that are clear. Just look at everyone selling a course on YouTube through some ads or through Facebook telling you they have the way. There is a reason why marketing courses are so popular, and it's because marketing is often very confusing and there's often no clear answers on what to do. So whatever you can do to minimize that overwhelm is super, super important, and batching is one of those things. Hello. Hard transition Greg back here. If you've been watching my Bolt-on Wealth series, you already know the drill, but in case you don't, I was very long-winded in this video and I had a lot more to say than I expected. So I am doing this. I'm turning it into a little series. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and all that good stuff. Because in the next video on being a digital marketing manager, I'm going from the daily life to some of the strategies I have used in my own career, strategies I picked up from other people that I've talked to, even CMOs of $2 billion companies. Had a recent call with a guy who used to be a CMO, one of those, and it was very illuminating and honestly made me feel a lot better, because the kind of struggles I was feeling, he was saying, this is very normal. So if this is you, if you're enjoying this content, whether you're a marketer or an entrepreneur, maybe a bit of both, as entrepreneurs often start off as marketers, then make sure you watch the next video and give me that sweet, sweet subscribe. It's all I ask. It's 100% free to do, and it makes me feel good. See you in the next video.